It's Danny Flexen here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined by the former two-time world heavyweight champion, Anthony Joshua. Anthony, how are you?
All is well, thank you. And yourself?
Very good, thanks. You mentioned up on there, I think it was Eddie that said it, this is the first fight in a long time where you haven't been vying for some sort of world title. How has that change in status affected your mindset, if at all?
Well, in the sense that the standard of preparation can't decline due to the fact that there's no title there. It's because it would be silly of me to have that mindset, because that's going to lead me towards getting beat. A lot of fighters that train today aren't training for just their fight in the next month or two. They're actually training for like the world title fight 10 fights down the line. So they try and set a standard. So that's what we're doing. We take the approach where it's like, this is our standard, and we feel that this is going to get us here. So title or no title, we maintain at a championship level and we try to push on.
Do you kind of feel like a contender again? Have you kind of rediscovered that dog in you, if you like?
Well, I always felt like I had that contender mentality, yeah. I never really had that ego, yeah, I'm the champ. I always felt like respect people, remain humble, and have that contender mentality. But at the end of the day, I looked at them as all just fights. Champion, contender, this one coming up, it is what it is. Get in there, dug it out, and just do your best. And the results will follow.
And as champion, we saw you use that platform for all sorts of things, politics, social change, good things. Yeah. But with that in mind, do you still have that power, do you feel? Can you still speak on a great deal of subjects from where you are now? Even though you're not the champion, you're still a hugely recognisable figure.
Depends who wants to listen. That's number one. Yeah. Number two is, when I was champ, I always made sure I position myself accordingly for days like this, because there's two ends of it. One, you may get beat and you may lose the belt, or you can go your whole career as champ and retire and you're not champion anymore. So there'll always be a day that you won't be recognized as a champ because retirement happens, for example. So I felt like I'd always position myself where I have some value outside of boxing, where my voice or my appearance is valuable to somebody. So it just depends who that somebody is.
Do you feel even more freedom now, maybe, to kind of be yourself and to say what you... I'm not saying you were faking anything before, but, you know, now you haven't got that pressure on your shoulders.
I always say it's one thing becoming a champion, and it's a responsibility of being a champion. They are two different things. But one thing you should always do is, maintain a standard if you can. So I'll always just be who I am, with or without the belts. I've always said the belts never made me or made me. You can't fake who you are. If you're PUSSY, that's who you are. If you're rough and tough, you're rough and tough. You can't fake it and act. So yeah, I just feel like you always be true to who you are and never apologize for who you are.
You're with Derek James now, going to be training out in the US. What kind of brought you two together? What attracted you to him and vice versa?
Well, I don't want to put any pressure on Derek James, because he says, I ain't going to shout. I ain't going to tell you, fight for your kids. For you to do. That was number one. I like that. He ain't no motivational cheerleading coach. And the second thing was, I always knew what I'd done to get where I needed to get to. But along the way, you need to develop, because you realize that you're fighting different caliber of fighters. So I've had 8 years of championship fights, 12 back-to-back title fights. So it's been quite challenging, where I needed to develop. In the scheme of the amount of fights I've had, it's still novice. I've had about 60 fights altogether in my whole career, amateur and pro, where some people have had 300 amateur fights alone. Do you know what I mean? So I'm still trying to think, yeah? Which isn't... Some people are settled with who they are and how they fight. But I don't think then people will be able to probably go their career and have 12 back-to-back title fights. So I was always trying to think, I'm in this position, what's the best way to manage it? But what I like with Derek is it went back to what got me where I needed to get to. It took me back. He does certain things that took me back. And I was like, yeah.
How far? That's Finchley days?
No. I don't even remember them days. But honestly, I don't even know how I survived them days. Them days were just like, honestly, they were just spitting sawdust, star jumps, burpees, dorsal raises, you know what I mean? Just like the circuit and that were harder than the actual training. But it took me back to 2014 when I'm like just on my pro journey. You know, basics, discipline, drills.
And you were saying earlier that you originally linked up with Robert Garcia for a specific opponent. With Derek James, I'm assuming this is more a long-term arrangement. What is it you hope he can bring to your game?
Well, for me, I hope it's a long-term arrangement, but it's up to him. I can't make that decision for him. He's a well and highly sought-after coach. And what can he bring to my game? He can bring me wisdom and knowledge, but it's up to me to absorb that and do what I need to do. That's what I realized. I can't put that pressure on Derek and be like, give me everything and it's just going to happen. I've got to do it. So what I'm saying is that he has a lot of wisdom and knowledge in the game. And he is making sure that when he explains certain things to me, I can understand it and I'm interpreting it in the right way, because I could have a message, but 10 people interpret it differently. That he's just trying to make sure that the message that he gives me, because let's say he gives it to Errol Spence, he interprets it one way, but he gives it to me the exact same way. I might not get it the same way that Errol did, because we're just different in the way we interpret a certain message. But the way he's giving me his wisdom, he's just putting it in my brain in the right fashion, and it's just up to me to go and make that wisdom that he's transferred a reality in the ring.
You said earlier, or you mentioned your relative lack of experience, amateur and pro combined.
For example.
Yeah.
I'm very experienced, but that was just an example.
But with that in mind, do you feel you've been maybe harshly judged at times, or or the expectations have been harsh?
I don't see why people think like I'm some little kid that can't take a bit of...
No, but you started late.
It is what it is, isn't it? It's like, what do you want me to do? I can't be like, oh, please, feel sorry for me, I started late. Like, shit, if I'm going to fight for the championship belt, you better fucking buckle up and be ready for all the bullshit that comes with it. This is just the game I'm in. This is the rough and tough. This is heavyweight boxing. This is not like darts, no disrespect. Do you know what I mean? This is like fighting. So I don't care how much experience you've got, you fight with your heart. That can overcome. Do you know what I mean? And that's how I managed to do it, from being an amateur for 3 years. But in them 3 years, I managed to take myself from a local boxing gym where we used to go out every weekend and get pissed to competing at the Olympics 3 years later, because it was all from here. And then 3 years later as a professional, turning pro to fighting for the championship. It's just heart, man. So I don't really mind like what comes with this, good and bad. It's just fighting. That's all it is. That's all that's important to me, is just living out my prophecy that I had when I was 18. And I said, I'm going to commit myself to this game. I think I've got something. I remember I spoke to my friend. Yeah, we used to get in a lot of trouble.
Never.
And I got out of the car and I went back and I said, listen, I need to chat to you. I said, you know what? I said, I think I can do well at this boxing thing, you know. He goes, you reckon? I said, yeah, bro, I think I can do well. He goes, you know what? I feel like a CUNT for not telling you. If you think you can do it, bro, I got your back. And that was it. I just knuckled down. And yeah, we're here now. So I just need to fulfill this prophecy. And that's what, all the shit that comes with it, glitz, glam, fame, backstabbing, criticism, this isn't what's important. What's important is fulfilling the destiny, fulfilling the goal. That's what's important.
And that kind of leads neatly to the final question, which is lucky because there's a lot of people I think still want to speak to you. You've already achieved so much, 2-time world heavyweight champion, as we said at the start. What are the boxes left to tick for you personally, not just in the ring, but outside the ring as well?
Well, with my new environment is see how far I can push myself, because I think due to the fact that we have like a big backlog of like history and data, I know what I had done to get to a certain place. Now I'm in a new chapter, and now I can gauge if I'm doing more. So if I want to go again, it's like, let's see if I do more, how far this is going to take me. So if it was like I was doing the same, it would be like, I'm just doing it for the fun of it. Like, I probably already know what the outcome's going to be. But now it feels like I'm doing more than I did before. So it'll be interesting to see.
Outside the ring?
What am I going to do with my life outside the ring?
What do you want to do? What do you still want to achieve? You've got obviously part of 258. You've got maybe promotion.
Do you know what makes me happy? It's seeing other people successful. So outside of the ring is helping other people. Because no one really cares. No one wants to. Not no one, but I just remember days at the bus stop stranded, thinking this bastard who just drove past, if he could just give me a lift. Like, why don't he care? So I feel like it's like just ingrained in me to actually be aware to help people that need help. Like, I swear down, people at the bus stop will pull up like, yo, do you want me to get you an Uber? Do you need a lift? Because it's just seeing me help people. That's what it's about for me now, if I can.